Friends and family, welcome to another live broadcast brought to you by Premier's Turning Point, with your host, Bishop Dr. Uton Lay. We pray and hope that something that is being said today will bless your soul and spirit. Please take a quick moment to like and share this broadcast with your friends and family. Thank you again for joining us. Let's go into our live program.
Blessings, one and all. Good evening. Good evening. This is Bishop Dr. Lang. We're back with you today on another episode of Premier's Turning Point. And, you know, with the ongoing pandemic and all the issues where schools are concerned, going back to school and such alike, we are still talking about that. And this evening, we have the great pleasure of having two of our teachers with us. And they will introduce themselves in a minute. We're going to still talking about, I know various states, it's a little bit different. Some are going back fully, some are going back just remotely, and some are the hybrid kind of setup. But we want to keep talking about, you know, how this is affecting our students, our teachers, our families, what issues, what difficulties are arising. And so who better than to speak with two of our teachers who are getting ready for the start of another school year. So this evening, I'm going to ask them to introduce themselves. We have Claudette Ashmead and we have Valine Jarrett. So we're going to start with Claudette to just say something, introduce yourself, take a few minutes and tell us about stuff, and then we'll go to Valine. All right, go ahead.
Hi, my name is Claudette Ashmead, and as an educator, I had to quickly adapt and implement different teaching techniques and strategy, life skills, and creativity to engage students during this global crisis. And as I venture out into that, I realize that it's not a one size fits all for all students. So we do come up with a lot of challenges facing us with remote learning during this time of pandemic, and especially the students that are in the inner city and urban students also are facing many challenges. So is educators. You know, this is something new for us, and we had to put on our creativity act and try to tailor instruction to fit the different learning style of our students.
Okay, and Valine, you just tell us about yourself and what you're doing. Go ahead.
Hi, good evening. My name is Valine. I am a fourth and fifth grade special education teacher. Actually, this past year was doing special education, but I have taught eighth grade, seventh grade, sixth grade, fourth grade. I've even taught at an alternative high school. So, you know, I love what I do. I love students. And so this topic is very near and dear to my heart. So thank you for having me.
I think as we go through, you'll hear a little bit more, you know, more details from them. Now, so Claudette, which grade do you teach right now, or were you teaching before?
I'm teaching in the Elizabeth School District. I have taught all grades. Now my focus is on the elementary grades, third, fourth, and fifth grade, but I've taught sixth, seventh, and eighth, also on the high school level. So I'm also a
Mhm.
special ed teacher, and teaching is my passion. It's dear to my heart, especially when I see kids rise above and, you know, go on to be good citizens of this beautiful country that we're living in. So it's dear to my heart again.
Yep. All right. And we have experience from pretty much all the grades because you
Yes,
guys are pretty versatile and have done, you
yes,
know, whatever they ask you to do, I think it sounds like. And
yes.
so we can talk a little about that. One thinking about this, one of my concern is for various groups. And firstly, our, you know, kindergarten, first, second, third grades, especially expecting them to, if they're going back and when they are, expecting them to wear a mask and social distance. That's, you guys been in the trenches. What do you think about that?
I'll let Miss Ashmi go.
Well, for
Okay.
social distancing on the lower grades, it's going to be a very big challenges because you're looking at kids, especially the special ed kids that are challenged and cannot really wear a mask throughout the school period. And then it's going to stem behavioral issues because more than giving instruction, we have to be redirecting to wear a mask in the lower grades. You have some kids that will adapt, but it's not going to be very easy for the younger kids to adapt to wearing a mask, not getting up, not social distancing. That has to be a whole lesson in itself for the first marking period if we go in school learning.
Okay.
I
All right.
agree. I definitely agree. Um, and it's funny because I was in a store and I heard a little boy says, "Mommy, do I still need to keep my mask on?" And it just brought me back to our kids. They're our kids, and it's going to be very difficult for them to keep a mask on all day. I can seeing masks on the floor over there, over here, so I think it's impractical to think that these kindergarten kids are going to be keeping a mask on their face, for the whole day. I live close to an area that has young kids, and I can look through my window and I could see the kids playing. And when they're playing, the masks are up here, down there, they're all over the place. They're playing, they're kids. They're going to do that. So I think it's impractical to think that kids are going to just keep their mask on all day.
Yeah, and that's one of my concerns, especially about the lower grades, that aspect of it. And of course, to expect them to do this. And of course, when you put in, as Ms. Ashmead pointed out, when you put in the special needs kids, who, I
Yes.
take care of quite a few children who are on the spectrum, who needs redirection anyway, who needs various coaching for everything, is going to be next to impossible. I'm not really sure how that is going to take place. And that's why one of my pointers is to really get this rate down as low as we can before, and that this is my point, and people don't have to agree with me, but this is my point, before we embark on opening up schools, and especially for the younger children, even though one school of thought is going to tell you, well, they don't get the infection as much as the older. Fine, but that doesn't say they don't. So and all you need is one or two to then take it back to the homes, back to their parents, and pass on to the teachers for us to have a major problem. So I think it's my thought is, and even as a physician, is really we need to see this rate low, to non-existent before we can do that. Then my concern with the older children, and you guys can weigh in on this, then is, now once they're teenagers and up, they have a mind of their own. And, some of them are gonna, conspire with a group that says we shouldn't wear masks, while some of them won't. And therefore, then we have another whole set of problems. I don't know what you guys think about that.
Well, we can see that happening right now in Georgia in some of the middle school and high schools where students are very defiant in wearing masks. And, you're going to have the social gathering that said, listen, we don't have to wear it. And then you're going to have the other kids that said, I have to wear it. And then it's going to be a behavioral issue. And it's going to be difficult on the middle school and high school level. We can see already that the young people are not adhering to the policy that is set forth. They're going about having parties, doing their own thing. So you
Mm-hmm.
can just
Mm-hmm.
imagine in the classroom having to lecture, having to teach, and then having to keep, rephrasing and redirecting, please wear your mask, please wear your mask, please wear your mask. It's going to take time out of the instruction. It's going to be
Mm-hmm.
more of a
Yep.
discipline more than a teaching on
Yep.
the
I
on the
agree.
middle school and high school level.
Yep.
I
Yeah, you
totally
agree, sir?
agree. Yes, I totally agree because here you have kids who are in middle school, they're trying to find themselves. They have a
Yes.
mind of their own and they want to show you that they are independent. And I know there are going to
Mm-hmm.
be kids that say, I'm not wearing a mask. Nobody
Mm-hmm.
can make me wear a mask. So that could
Mm-hmm.
be a problem that we're going to foresee in the future. Definitely.
Yeah. Hmm. Yeah, and of course, it's gonna cause, and of course, we're having also a difference in opinion. So one day you're hearing from one group, especially the administration, oh, everything is fine, it's a fluke anyway, while you're hearing from the professionals that this is a major problem. I mean, I don't know if you guys listen to the prediction is that over the next, we may have at least 30,000 more deaths
Yeah.
over the next
Yes.
few months. That's the
Yes.
prediction.
Yes.
And people are, and with that in mind, what is a responsible thing for us to do, both as teachers, parents, administrators, what is it that we need to do? And I think we have to really come together. And I think what we see missing. We don't see this coming together, the various groups to really think about this in a logical, practical way, and then say what is the best thing to do for our children, for our country, for our community, for our families. Because, years I'm sitting here today, I'm now have first hand. My sister just passed away in Florida from the COVID-19. All right. And of course she was ill. And so more at risk, was on dialysis, more at risk. But, if she wasn't going back and forth to dialysis, and as much as they took precautions, they wore their masks. And of course, the healthcare workers were doing everything they could. But you're in that environment and you're more prone. And of course, if you're immunosuppressed, you're that lot more prone. And with that said, how about the teachers, and the workers, the nurses, the people in the school? How do we think this whole thing, where are they standing on this? How do they feel about, going back or opening up?
Well, for one, I have my reservations because the building that I work in, this building was built in the 1800s. So the ventilation is poor. A lot of windows don't open. So I do have some reservations about going into a classroom where the ventilation is poor and, from my understanding, you're only going to have, a certain amount of kids, but even with a certain amount of kids, it's going to be very difficult to just control the environment. Kids move around, they touch each other. That's kids, that's what they do. So I do have some reservations about being back in the building. And you touched on something earlier I wanted to say something about. A lot of these kids live in multi-generational homes. So they can take that virus back to grandma, to grandpa, or whomever is in that household.
That's an important point. And I will come back to that. We'll let Claudette just chime in on that. Mm-hmm.
I agree with Miss Jarrett. I am in an inner city school district, and it is very challenging. The older buildings, no air condition. We have issues with the windows. When it's hot, we have to move to the auditorium. So I don't know how are we going to contain this virus going back to school, and I am very concerned. I am very, very much concerned. And as Ms. Jarrett said, these inner city communities, it's multiple family within one house. And they're going to bring it back home, and they're going to bring it also to the teachers and staff in the school. So it's a very difficult time, and it's very challenging for educators going back, because especially in the inner city schools.
Exactly.
Yes, it's definitely real. And I think this is one of the reasons why I think we need more dialogue and working this through, because you have to understand. And as much as if we, over the past months, we heard a lot of talk that children are immune. We hear that children don't get this, children that. But look at now, if you look at the statistics now, the average age now is 30 and 40. It's not 60 or 70. And they're seeing a lot more the younger age group that are now infected. And remember, there's a lot of uncertainties. Somebody could be transmitting the virus and showing no symptoms. They could have no symptoms at all, especially in the children. And then, we're looking at, so many more when you open up. And we see from example of the places that are opening up. There's colleges that open up and in 2 weeks they're closing down. There is, we see what's going on in Georgia because they're trying to open up and how higher the rate are in children now compared to a few months ago. So I think we must look at this big picture. And I think we have to take into consideration how the teachers feel. Not only that, I mean, for example, New York said they're going to have a nurse in every school. All right. So when all the nurses come down, where are they going to find nurses to put in the schools, when they're infected? And, where are they going to find these people to do this? The custodial workers who clean up and all that, they're going to be at risk. And of course, you're going to have less and less of those if the infection keeps on spreading. So when you look at the whole picture, I really see, I mean, and some of the experts have talked about this, a big resurgence if we don't do something to nip it in the bud right now. Then on top of that, I don't know if you guys have thought about this yet. All right, we're almost in the height of flu season. Now, flu season starts middle of August.
Yeah.
So can you imagine now, the sniffly little noses, the runny nose, the this, the that, and trying to come to school. Now, are we going to keep all of those home? So then why are we opening up? Are we going to keep all of those now home, or them fine? They have a little temperature. Are we going to then keep all? So we then have these schools that if we're opened up are going to be half full anyway. Half of the kids are going to be, so technically you're still going to have to be doing double work because you're going to have to teach the ones that show up and then you still have to make amends for the ones that are not there. So I think it needs a lot of rethinking. What are we doing and what are we doing? What's right and what's best for everybody involved? The children, number one, but of course, not just the children. We have the workers, we have the teachers, we have the nurses, we have everybody. And are we really, thinking about them? So just chime in again in general when we put it all together, all the different groups. How do you go forward from here? What would you think would be the best way? Or what do you think? And, so we got to put our thoughts, because I think that's what we need more of, the thoughts of the people who are right in the trenches. So go ahead Sis Claudia could take it first.
The best way is remote learning. Until we can control this pandemic for the safety of the students and the staff, and remember, teachers also have families, we have to remain remote learning. We have to remain remote learning until this pandemic passes, because as you said, we're going into the flu season, and you have parents who send their kids to school even when they're sick, and then they're at school, and then we have to be calling them. Sometimes we can't even locate the parents to come and pick up the kids because the kids are sick. We're going to see this in the school. Parents, especially single parents who have to work, babysitting, it's an issue for them. And the only alternative is to send them to school.
Yep.
So,
Absolutely.
We see that. Go ahead. All right. So anything you want to add? Yeah.
Sure. I'm sorry. I'm just going to piggyback off of what Miss Claudette just said. How do we move forward? I think what has to happen is teachers and parents have to work together.
yes.
We have to work together, meaning that I know that there are parents out there who they're working, and therefore, they might not have the time to see to it that the child does the work. No, this coming year, it's going to be critical that parents make sure your kids log on at the time they're supposed to log on. Make sure you're checking their work. And so I think it's critical for parents and teachers to work together. That's my way of going forward.
Okay.
And,
Yeah.
and,
And I
and
think, go ahead.
And that is so true, Miss Jarrett, because this is a time when we're really bridging the gap between parents and teachers, and they taking some accountability to help their students and their kids. Because as educators, we wrestle with that lack of parental involvement with the kids academically. We can hardly reach them. Homework is not properly done, so parents are forced now to be involved in their kids' learning. And, as you said, we have to collaborate together and come up with strategy and techniques to help some of these parents, especially the ones that are bilingual. English is not their native language. It's a big barrier for them. So we have to find solutions.
Yeah, we definitely, and we're going to look in a minute the concern about they can't socialize. But we're going to come to that. But before we hit at that, I just wanted to mention also not the one that we're also concerned about parents then have to work, have no one home with the children. Now go about, and you mentioned the parents have to be for this children, this village and this. They have on time. They have to follow instructions. They have to be structured. So how are we going to cope with that piece? I just wanted to take a minute to think about that. So what do we do for those parents?
Ms. Jarrett, you could take that on.
Yeah, I heard bits and pieces of what you
Yeah.
said, Dr. Lang, but I think I got the gist of what you're trying to say. And I think I'm hearing you say, how do we help parents who do have to go to work and their kids have to stay home and, be responsible and do their work? And I do understand that situation. If you have to go out and work. But at the end of the day, you have to ask yourself the question, okay, what is more important? The safety of your child, or, and I understand you do have to work and you do have to make a living, but consider what is the safety of your child and your family. That's my take on that.
Okay. Claudette, anything on that?
Yeah, well, with some of my students, I have some of the parents that are facing challenges where, they have to work and they don't have babysitter. And I saw where one of my parents, she networked with another parent to have the child over her house during instructional time. So at least we can collaborate and reach out to the need of that individual kid. Not every parents have that luxury, but as Miss Jarrett said again, we have to look at what is the priority. What is the priority here? And address, is my child education first? And what alternative can I use to accomplish?
Yeah, I bring that point up actually because this is one of my big concerns. I think if you are following the politics, which we're not really talking politics, but it just keeps rearing its ugly head. But if we're following that, we realize that they did have, as part of that CARES Act, parents could take the time to be there,
Yes.
but that is gone. So one of the reasons I bring that up, we need to also speak out to our congressmen or senators or local leaders. They have to do something. So if they care about these children, like they say they do, they then have to, whether it's money, whether it's funding, whether it's coming up with some other system, they have to then also be there for those children. Because if you're a parent, if I'm an essential worker, all right, and I have to go, I must, all right, I am obligated and I want to go like you, then somebody have to make some amends to help me if I need my kids educated and be followed. So I think this year we go again. I'm talking about, this is why we need deep discussions about how this is all going to come together. Because even, so the remote learning, I think, is probably the best way right now. And then we'll talk a little bit in a few minutes about some of the psychological stuff that people are concerned about that. But I think for the safety and just to the distance, and that is the best way. But I think we have to think of the big picture where we have a concern about, yes, I may have, a wife or a spouse at home that can be home or could work from home. I'm okay. But how about two essential workers have to go out? They have two young children. What are they going to do with them? So I think that is part of the equation too, that I don't think we can shrug at as a community, as a government, as a country. We have to make sure we're making provision for everybody and making sure we're helping everybody get this pandemic that we're in. But I think if we come together, we can put our heads together. We can work out issues, whether it's, I thought about something even crazy, like if we have some of these big stadiums that they're empty, right? How about, we set up stations. We can distance. Listen, if you have some of these stadiums hold 40,000 people, right?
Yes.
So how many distancing? We could still hold 10,000. Thinking about it, how about setting up, cubicle, setting up whatever, they're sitting there empty. And then we could do even by classes and mass instruction. There's stuff we can't have to put our heads together and come up with
Yes.
systems. We have to think, here's the problem, here's the issues that we're facing, and how are we going to, what are the solutions that we can come up with? Thank God he gives us all a nice brain, and it works in most everybody. And so I think we have to start putting it together. And we can't let our politicians off either. They have to be involved. We can't let our administrators, everybody got to come together and then see what is the best way we're going to move forward. Because it's not a quick fix here. And despite what some people are thinking, you're not going to do this and COVID is not going to be gone. I mean, we have 1,000 people a day still dying in the U.S., 1,000
Yes.
in a day. That's a lot of people. So, and yes, the rate, we see the hospitalizations are going down, thank God, but we're still seeing 1,000 deaths a day. So we're not out of the woods yet. And as we said before, we're now, the flu season is now upon us. And of course, it's going to cause a lot of confusion. It's going to cause a lot of things because now everybody's, going to say, well, do I have the flu or do I have COVID? Right? That's what's going to be it. And so, and of course, we still don't have the testing as far as should be. We still have a lot of disparities among that. Some people, supposedly, I don't know if you guys realize that supposedly as part of that CARES Act, nobody should have have to pay for a test. Either your insurance picked it up, or even if you had no insurance, it should have been covered across the board. I know some people, places, and they charge them 150. So there's so much that we need to put ourselves together and make sure that we're looking out for everybody. I mean, my thing is really equality. And then, of course, the affluent school districts, things are fine. Everybody have, what they need. But there's others, they still don't have enough tablets and iPads and stuff to even do the remote learning. So we have a lot to work at, whether it's a remote learning, whether it's hybrid work. And this is, so I want to make sure it's for a little bit. And what line did ask, some parents and teachers are concerned about the child's social and psychological development if they stay home, and attend school virtually. Is this a valid concern, and how families bolster these areas of child development? Good question. I'm actually going to read it. Some parents are concerned about social and psychological if they stay attend virtually. Is this a valid concern? How can families bolster these areas of child development?
Go ahead,
I
Lee.
can yeah, I can start there.
Mhm.
Definitely that is a big concern because as kids learn and grow, they socialize, they, you know, they need to be around other people so that they can socialize. And it was interesting enough, I was speaking to someone who's a psychiatrist, and they were saying that after the pandemic, a lot of kids are going to have PTSD. And I'm like, well, I never thought about that, because they're closed off from their friends, even though some of them still play video games and they have time where they spend with their friends online. So they're still getting some socialization there. But overall, yeah, I think that's definitely an issue that needs to be addressed about socially and psychologically.
And yes, that's a big concern for me also, because especially the kids that are challenged and kids that are autistic, this impacts them a great deal. The lack of socialization, not having times with their peers. Yes, they do it on the internet and,
Yes.
they FaceTime and they talk, but physically touching and, peer share, it's going to be very hard, because it's even an adjustment for us, the
As
educators,
adults.
being confined. How are we going to handle when we go back out into the classroom? So psychologically, it plays a big impact on the educators too, because the fear we have, Yes, we can socialize, but the distance, the physical distance, and the new norms, 6 feet
Mhm,
apart. And sometimes
mhm,
you totally forget about the six
mhm,
feet apart,
mhm,
and you tend to want to embrace and things
mhm,
like that. So
mhm,
definitely,
mhm,
it's going to be hard on the
mhm.
kids.
Yeah, it's definite. I mean, and I know there is various proposals that I've seen. Some of the things, for example, if you are in a community and say your neighbors, and you all got tested, and we could maybe relax some of that for them to interact, of course, but you stay within your group. So then
Hmm.
once this group say, you have 10 people coming together, they have this basically this social that then they interact within, then yeah, you wouldn't span out to everybody. But then with time, we get these groups could get a little bit larger, of course, as we see the numbers are still coming down. So I think there's some things that we can do. I mean, of those with families that have big families, of course, within their family, they can do that. But I think have to just stimulate them. I think also in whatever when we have to come up with social games that they can do online in the short things that they can do to such, because I think a lot of people, what I see is where a lot of them kind of going into a depression where they just kind of lock themselves, don't interact. That's I think where the problem is going to be. So I think as a group we have to also brainstorm is how are we going to help with the social well-being, help them to then to socialize in some way. I also thought, and I should probably do this for church, we're gonna at least once a month kind of park. We still will social distance, but we can do it by families, and then we can do some interaction watching, but at least we can have discussion. We can various things like that, because I we do, because in fact a lot of relationships are just getting further and further apart. People are not forging new relationships. And I even was worried about some of our unmarried people. You're not with anybody, or you're not meeting you, and a lot to consider, think about. And I pray this thing a lot about for the Lord to give us more. Come on together. We would plan to actually make all of this at least bearable. While we're going through it. And then even come out when we come to this would even flourish. But I think on the point, the social, the psychological, I think one of the things that we about this on a well aware that this is an issue, and stay tuned, and also your children if they're eating too much, having any depressive symptoms, so you now as even as and of course when you guys teachers interact with them, are an important part of that too, to try to tease out, which kids help in what area. I think eventually would help to stay sharp and keen to see what's going on. And I know, you guys do that on a daily basis anyway, even now when your kids, because as with that said, one of the issues that we're seeing there, and I listened to one report, the amount of child abuse that is reported is way down. And why is that? Because most of it is picked up in school, picked up
Hmm.
amongst George, you can chime in. I think my sister is trying to say something, so go ahead.
Hmm. Yes, it's
On
down
point.
because
Hmm.
they're not reporting at school. They'll report it, the teacher. But if it's not, if it's down, it's because they're doing it.
Yeah, so the reporting is what is down. That's a key point. And ever flip side of that is the emergency rooms are seeing more accidents and abuse. So the reporting, because not socializing and for your contact, but the incidence is that is down, and that's another one of the problem. One of the issues about getting the kids out, getting, more eyes on them, more interaction. So that's also one of the issues that I think we're facing. Have to, see what we can do. Are we reaching out to the is, that you set up for this? Have got two parents that are not working, stress at home. There's so much to consider, pandemic that, even what we're talking about is just a tip of the iceberg in all of these areas. So I don't know. I know when you guys go back out, you may be a lot of issues. So, the team have to be mentally ready, you know, to deal with what you're going to face. Because this is now, on a daily basis. So do you usually, it's pandemic?
I didn't hear
Can
that
you hear
question. I didn't hear
No,
you,
I didn't
Dr.
hear.
Lynn.
you? Yeah.
Yeah,
Hear me now?
yeah, you keep going in and out.
All right. Let me check with my sound people real quick. Let me just do a sound check and see what's going on. Okay. All right. I'm going to do a check here. Just hang on for a minute.
Yes.
See if we're better. Okay. All right. Okay. Are we any better?
Yes.
Yes.
Can you guys hear? All right.
Yes.
Okay. So let me ask that question. Good. I just switched this white.
It's gone again.
Yes. I guess we lost the
Yeah,
connection.
Dr. Lynn. Yeah.
Okay. Because I also wanted to talk about, before we left, I wanted to talk about giving some resources to parents that while the kids are at home, they can do some of these online, especially Khan Academy for math. They can be sharpening their skills while they are at
Oh,
home. So
yes.
I want to
Yes.
make sure that they.
And get epics, read works. There's so much resources out
Newsletter.
there for the kids to what I did, I put a spreadsheet together. So
Mm-hmm.
for the upcoming school year, I will email the parents.
Oh,
Yeah.
definitely. What about, while they're at home, they should be reading. They should be reading and they should be
Yes.
sharpening up skills because they've been home since March. So,
Yep. And it's very challenging because then you have some parents that not technologically savvy, and I have to be emailing them work for them to actually do with the kids, then screenshot it, email it back to me, just to modify the lessons so at least we get something in from the student. Then you
okay.
have kids that are on the games playing, even when I am in.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Dr. Lane, you're back.
Yeah, I'm back
Oh,
now.
here.
Yeah, who knows what happened with this technical. So really, there's a lot of issues, as you all saying, that we have to consider. The one thing I was asking before we got interrupted is, uh, pre-pandemic, on an average, how much child abuse would you say you saw in the course of a year?
Hmm. Wow.
Well, now, um,
That's a very.
in the space of, yeah, in this year, because see, I urban area as well, and
Mhm.
times, kids don't open up.
Yeah.
They don't want to open up. So maybe once for the year, I might have a
Mhm.
complaint, from a
Yeah.
student,
Mhm.
but they're pretty guarded because
Yeah.
mom tells them, what happens in this house stays in this house. So they
Yeah.
tend not to report it.
Yeah. So can you imagine now it's even worse because, you don't even see them. So, and you can't even see any signs, because that you may then, because for example, as a physician, if a child comes to my office and I even suspect, nope, they don't have to tell me anything. They don't have to say anything. If I have any suspicion, I have to report it. Now, I'd say over the course of the year, I have 3 or 4 or 5 cases at least, and probably one other that may have said something, but the rest is just from observation and or from seeing something. I mean, I get to see a little bit more because I'm examining the children, so I may pick up a little bit more. But even from your conversations and stuff, but you see now we don't have that because of this mostly virtual, and everything could be breaking loose at home and nobody actually knows about it. So I think it's a little bit, and that's why I think they were seeing a little bit more kids coming in more injured than would be somebody in the past. How about you, Claudia? How many cases a
Well,
year
for
would you?
me, I would say about two. The thing is I
Yeah.
have an open door policy with my students.
Mm-hmm.
And sometime when I do suspect something, I might turn it into an instructional piece, a writing.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
then I get a lot out of the kids. And then I'll pull that child to the side. And then I am telling you, the story
Yeah.
just go on. And then I had to go down to the social worker. So with
Yeah.
me, I have an open door policy with the older kids that they know
Mm-hmm.
they can come in and share with me anything.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes it's a rift between the parents and myself. But
Mm-hmm.
then I reported at least, two for the
Yeah.
year.
Yeah. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yes. And
Yeah.
I am very rigid. And I told the parents, I am going to do it.
Yep. Well, I think
Yeah.
we realize we're obligated, but so now we are
Yeah.
in a new era where we have to
Yeah.
still be vigilant, even though we are remote. We have to be vigilant, and so we still have to do everything that we can. I mean, I know a lot of us are on the line currently are from a little West Indian kind of background and
Yes.
or African American background, and a lot of times in the culture, and I'll be honest, we poo-poo mental health, we poo-poo, but, you just pick me bad, so you just beat them,
Yeah.
but we have to be, very open to what's going on and be supportive, of the children, and so they also know, that they can come to you and talk to you about anything. So I think even remotely, I mean, I think if you're open, you're going to get more out of the child. They're going to share more with you, and that's kind of what you're looking for, what you want anyway. So you're looking for that sharing and that coming together is what you're looking for. So as we progress through this now, I know we kind of talk about what we think should happen, and I think the consensus is that we um, we are should probably stay remote until we get a lower rate, till we see a turning point, no pun intended, in the pandemic, and I think all of us would be most comfortable. Now, I think someone on the line is asking any resources that you suggest, especially for the parents who are now teachers in some form at home. Any specific resources that you think would be good, for them to use to help them, to kind of help the children to stay in track.
So definitely during the break, Miss Claudette and I talked about some free resources that are out there for math. Definitely Khan Academy. I can't say enough about Khan Academy for math. And for literacy, you'll have Newsella. You have Learning Ally, which is for some, depending on your district, is free. So there are a lot of free resources out there that even ebooks. Kids should be, if they don't have books at home, they should be reading ebooks so that they can sharpen their skills.
Hmm.
And
Okay.
and what I plan on doing, and I already started. I have where I was sharing with Miss Valine that I am creating a whole spreadsheet with resources and website for the parents where the kids can actually, go on and do some more reading, get Epic, read works, Common Lit. There is so much
Mhm.
out there. They're student friendly, they're interactive. And what I do for some of my students, I assign them books on their level and books of their interest. I know they're into comic books and Minecraft, and so I
Mhm.
try to gear reading around their interests, so at least
Mhm.
they will sit and read, they will focus. Even with math, I try to gear it towards their interests. And
Yep.
there's so much things out there for
Mhm.
the parents
Mhm.
to get involved
Mhm.
with. So that's one of
Mhm.
my things for the
Yeah.
upcoming school year.
Yeah, yeah. And maybe you could share that. We can put it on our website
Yes,
as
I
well.
will.
The resources.
Yes.
And I think one of the things we're trying to do, even with just help groups, yes, we need talking about feeding people who need food and all that. We're trying to put some resources together, but the educational piece for the children, I think, is very, very important. And I mean, even and I know both of your have done, or either you're in special ed, I've done special ed. I mean, and I know I'm really concerned. I mean, and personally, I only have about two autistic patients in my two or three in the practice right now, but I'm so concerned, about them, and that the parents have the resources. I mean, one of my parents is so good. She gives me everything. She's into everything. She knows everything, and
Yeah.
there's so much out there. But even stuff like that we can share, because I think that's one of the things, because if we have not the knowledge, we're gonna perish. So I want to
Yeah.
really be almost a clearinghouse, of knowledge, so we can share with people everything that is available and is out there. Because these are times when, if we, as I said before, and I keep harping on it, if we can come together, we can overcome anything. We can
Yeah.
overcome various situations, the problems, the issues, but it takes all of us working together, and that's one of the things that I really want to foster, even for the of course for the children of God, but also for everybody. I mean, I'm not partial to everyone, and I think that's one of the most important thing that we can do, as a community, is to bolster all the areas of the community and give people resources that they can then work with, because this pandemic is real, and I think a lot of people, and that's one of the things that I keep stressing, don't play around with this. Don't play the fool, and act as if, oh yes, it's going to pass. It's real. We have to now look at all that we've learned, put it all together and see how can we then use what we have learned to protect ourselves, to move forward, and to engage everybody to so that we all could come out of this much better. And it's really going to take all of us putting all the effort that we have. And I really, appreciate that. We have the two of our great teachers on tonight who, are knowledgeable about, the everyday working, and are really concerned also about the children learning, the children education, the children's mental status and their well-being, because it's going to take us putting this all together to get us over the hump of all of this problem. And one other thing that also concerns me, and I know maybe you guys can talk to this, and I see is, as we move a little higher, you guys don't teach college, but the mentality in college, I just kind of, do you guys understand why would these college kids that have brains, these big colleges go and now are gathering up in these big groups and now causing a big absurd, just in your guys dealing with people, why do you think this is why it was like that? Any
Well,
thought?
if we want to get political on that,
Yes.
You
get
That's
get a
why
little
I
bit.
political,
paused.
because
That's why I paused, because I didn't want to get political.
children live
Well,
by
you
example.
can make general statements. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Yeah, go ahead.
And
Yeah.
we have leaders that are not promoting,
Hmm.
wearing a
Hmm.
mask and
Hmm.
social distancing. So
Yeah.
do we expect this younger generation
Yeah.
to
Uh-huh.
actually
Yeah.
do any
Yep.
better?
Hmm. Okay. Aline?
Absolutely.
That's the first thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And I was going to say that, yeah, if you have the leader of a country who's saying it's a hoax, um, causing confusion. And then there's so much that's on the internet.
Mm-hmm.
All these theories are going around and different people are believing different things. It's going to be
Mm-hmm.
confusing. And young people in general, they want to break the rules,
Yeah.
so,
Mm-hmm.
it's
Mm-hmm.
like, well, he's not wearing a mask. Why should I wear a mask? That kind of
Yeah.
thing. But yeah,
Exactly.
it comes from the top down. Comes from the
I
top
show you
down.
in contrast. I don't know if you guys realize that starting today, Jamaica, certain parts went back on a curfew
Mm.
Yes.
because the cases were slightly going up. And so they said, "Eh, we ain't gonna play with this. All right, we're gonna shut it down. And you can say whatever you want, but we'll put some soldiers out there, not to to fire tear gas and rubber bullets at anybody, but some soldiers out there to tell people to stay off of the street." It's
Mm-hmm.
amazing, how much more we could be. And actually, you look at the studies. I mean, and I'm being scientific. If people want to say my scientific is political, then that's fine. But scientifically, it's shown that as people gather and are not distancing, the numbers just go up. I can give you 50 million studies in this country, in other countries. So it's clear to us that if we can distance and we can separate for a little longer till the numbers go down, that we're going to do much better. And I think we need to, and that's one of my things, so people, nobody can blame me to be political, because I'm going to tell you it's a science. All right. So from the science, I want everybody to, and especially some of our Christians, I'm speaking to them right now, that you need to use the brain that God gives you. And if the science tells us that if you're going to go in a room full of 50 people, all unmasked, and hugging each other and slobbering over each other and doing all the stuff that you do, you can expect that the rate of spread of corona is going to go up in your church, your area, and then in your community. So we want to make it clear and turning point that we are looking out for our children. And if we expect our children to go back to school, and go back to some semblance of normalcy, then we got to get a control of this pandemic. And it's going to take every one of you out there, every one of us, to be smart and to look out for ourselves and the next person and do the thing that is right. Because I'm telling you, as much as you're hearing, open up the schools, trust me, they open up these schools. We're seeing it in Georgia. Then in a month, we're going to say close all the schools. So what makes better sense? Should we hang in there another month and, social distance and wear a mask and separate and isolate? And then we can maybe see, the death rate go down. That will follow all the rate. And then we back down to a rate where we can then open up the schools. Now, I have a couple more minutes. And so one thing that I wanted to just interject, because now there's the next big topic, which will probably bring you guys back, is vaccine. So what do you all think? Your teachers, and what if they tell you no kid can come to this class without being vaccinated or whatever? What are your guys' thoughts about that?
And you say we only have a few minutes?
Well, you can keep talking. Yeah, but yeah, I'm trying to touch on it today. Okay.
Okay. I'll
Yeah,
let
go ahead.
Claudette go first.
Go ahead.
Okay.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Well, the vaccine, as speaking from your medical point of view, I
Mm-hmm.
know that's the best route that we
Mm-hmm.
need to take, the
Mm-hmm.
vaccine, because once we find the right one that fits,
Good
okay?
point. Yeah.
I am
Good
in
point. Yeah.
total support of that,
Yeah.
of the
Uh-huh.
vaccine before we return. Yet we're
Mm-hmm.
going to have opposing side with parents and even
Yeah.
educators that
Yes.
are
Mm-hmm.
going to really be defiant on that side
Yeah.
of the fence,
Yeah.
which I think I would be one of them, refusing to take the vaccine.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
But
All right.
unless we find the right fit, I will
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
support the vaccine before we fully return back to in
Mm-hmm. Okay.
class learning, because we can see right now that
Mm-hmm.
it's not working because it's spread the outbreak, and then we have to shut down. It's going to just be that recycling all over again, repetitive,
Mm-hmm.
repetitive, open, close, open, close. So I
Mm-hmm.
do support the vaccine.
Okay. Aline?
Now, the vaccine. Pretty good question. Now, from my knowledge, it takes a certain amount of time for you to develop a vaccine, to test it. First you test it on animals and human. So I noticed that there's a rush
Mm-hmm.
with this vaccine to get it out onto the market. So my
Mm-hmm.
concern is, how
Mm-hmm.
safe is it? And
Mm-hmm.
then
Exactly.
my understanding also is that this vaccine is going to change your DNA. So I'm more concerned with what the vaccine will do
Mm-hmm.
to the person, and then later
Mm-hmm.
on we find out that, oh, sorry, what, we made a mistake,
Mm-hmm.
and it's too late, you have some disease or something like that. So I'm
Okay.
more concerned with the long term about this
Yeah.
vaccine.
Yeah.
So as of now, I don't have a definitive answer, if as to whether I would take it or not.
All right. Well, let me. This is my kind of topic, so we'll have to have a whole. No, I'm just gearing up because once the vaccine is available, I'll do a lot more talk on it. Here's the deal.
Hmm.
I do totally agree, and that's one of my things. I'm not going to be in the bandwagon for the first thing that show up unless they show me the proof that they went through
Hmm.
all the rigors of testing, making sure it's safe. And I think you can listen. Be honest with you. There's a few people in this country you know who you can listen to. There's a
Yes.
few of
Hmm.
you that listen to them, and you just have to listen to people who can. Now, one of the false things is that the vaccine changed your DNA. That's false. The
Mm-hmm.
vaccine is
Okay.
not going to change your DNA. All right.
Okay.
So that's what I'm saying. Make sure you listen to the right person, get all the information. And I'm one to be cautious. No, don't get me wrong. However,
Hmm.
I've been vaccinating people now for 20, 30 years. And
Hmm.
I could say of all the vaccines that are available, none of them really are the cause and effect of anything. Now, people
Hmm.
misunderstand. When you get a vaccine, do you get a little ill? You're supposed to, right? Because you're putting a foreign substance in your system. And now, if you didn't get a little ill, then your body's not working right because it's not a lot. Most, I guess, remember now, all of the vaccines are just a protein except for two. It's just the MMR and the varicella that are attenuated live vaccines. Everything else is not a virus or a bacteria that they put in you. So, but they put a protein derivative that's going to tell the body to react. So if your body is functioning right, usually most of them within 5 to 7 days, you should get a little bit of a reaction of some kind. Now, some people's immune system are revved up, so they get more of a reaction than others. So when people tell you that they took the flu shot and they got the flu, they didn't get the flu, right? They basically their body went into an hyperimmune response, and therefore, so they got this kind of serum sickness you kind of call it. So that's kind of the quick skinny on the vaccines. However,
Okay.
no vaccine, they can't tell me in 3 months they're gonna make a vaccine. The stuff they're giving
No.
in Russia, you take that at all right? Because they skipped the human trials, all right? So what they're giving in Russia now, they just skip the human. Now the people that are giving it to, those are the human trials. So we never know. But
Yeah.
by early next year, they should have a vaccine available as
Okay.
early as January. All right, and some of them are pushing it. They may come out with some stuff in December, but I would want to see a little bit more. Now, the funny thing that you guys mentioned that you should be aware of is the thing you need to look out for is when it is available, who gonna get it? Because even with
Oh.
African Americans.
no, they may not get it. That's actually the point I'm making. Because even with
Okay.
the Rezanavir, they show that breakdown of the states. The state that has the highest incidence did not get the highest amount of this medication. Which state got it? You go look that up you can look that up. The Rezanavir, the antiviral that they're giving, the states, Florida, praise I've didn't have the most, but got most of the medicine. You go look that up.
Mm.
That's a whole piece on that. So they make sure we have to now watch out that they don't politicize even the
Mm-hmm.
Mm.
distribution of the vaccine. That's actually going to be more the problem than should you take the
Mhm.
vaccine or you take it. Anyway, I'm getting off my soapbox.
So
Where
wait,
we,
so what are you saying that there is
mhm.
going to be marginalized, that only a certain group of
They may
people are
if
going to
you're going to
get
have to
first
watch. It
choice?
depends on who's in power. May
Oh.
go to certain states first.
Oh. So it's politically inclined again.
It's still
Okay.
you go. So we're gonna have to stand up to make sure
Yes.
that the politics stay out of it, because politics should
Yes.
not go into vaccines. All right, it should be,
Exactly.
if we're gonna give it to everybody, we offer it to everybody equally. And of course, some
Yeah.
people may decide not to take it, but that's their prerogative, to make that decision. Because see, I'm all for choice, but the thing is, my thing is, you need to have the education and the knowledge before you can make a choice. Otherwise, you're just following somebody else. If you don't
Yes.
have the knowledge and have the understanding of something, you're not choosing. You're just doing, something like some of the whole wives' tales that we grew up and listening to.
Hmm.
Nobody really. We just followed, right? We just said,
Hmm.
like tea is supposed to help your bellyache, right? And we just take it because that's what it's supposed to do. It may do it, but did anybody really study it and say yes, it does this or that? So I just want all our audience and everybody listening, especially our preachers. I mean, we have some preachers there that I want to take them outside. But anyway, let's not go there right now, because they're just so gung ho on certain things that they don't see the real thing. But I want everybody to make sure you be knowledgeable. And this is one of the reasons why we decided to do Turning Point, and we're going to keep doing it because we want to be a voice of reason and a voice of giving out knowledge and giving out information. That's really what it's about. Because once you have the information, then you'll be able to make the right decision. All right, because if you
I
don't
have a
have the information,
question, Dr. Lang.
sure, go ahead,
I have a
go
question.
ahead.
So,
Yeah,
you mentioned earlier that we should be careful who we're, I guess, getting our news from. So, who would you
yeah.
suggest we
Mhm.
should be getting our news from? Like,
I
who
really
would you recommend?
believe it or not, the CDC actually gives out good information, and even when
Hmm.
the politicians try to get them to change, if you notice, they don't change. Well, he had his voice back surgery, but Dr. Fauci gives out great information. He doesn't back down
Oh, I love
from
that.
anybody. He doesn't back down. He doesn't quabble because the president says something. He tells you the facts. So the
Hmm.
facts are there, and so you have to just be careful of some of this fringe news. There's a lot out there. Even this whole thing that is going on the blanking for a minute, the drug that they're telling you now not to take. All of the false things on that crazy wacko lady that was on the internet talking about all
Oh,
kinds of
that
stuff.
doctor. Okay.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
you have to,
Zinc, erythromax, and
yeah,
mhm.
mainstream, solid information. Go to the Journal of American Medicine. You got to get it from the source. And I think be honest with you, as much I've looked at most all the CDC stuff, they're really on the up and up. Some politicians may try to push them to water it down a little bit, but their basic, you look at their basic information, it's straight up and it's going to give you a good source. So that's really one good source. The mainstream media, you can listen to them, but make sure you check it. And then, of course, the fringe media. There's so much right now on listen. The internet is just riddled with all kinds of stuff right now. There's all kinds of theory and falsities that are out there. So you have to make sure you just double check your information. Turning Point is going to remain a good source of information. And so anybody want to join in, you can always go to our website, send us a question. If you have anything that you're concerned about, we will, if we don't know the answer, we'll look it up, because I'm all for knowledge and we'll share that with you. So for everybody out there, this was an awesome program. I really appreciate both of you. We're going to give you a minute to any last comments that you would like to make. And we'll start with either one of you. Which one wants to start to wrap up and say anything else that you'd like to? Mm-hmm.
Oh, well, to wrap it up for me, I encourage my fellow parents to work closely with your teachers, and let's come together collaboratively and try to have the kids be more focused during this time. It's a new thing for us. It's something that we have to adapt to real fast. But as the school year is approaching, there is some good strategy and approach that the district are really gearing towards, a better platform for the student. I myself are looking at other areas to implement for my students that are really struggling and are it's a challenge for them. The last time with remote learning, one of my thing I incorporate was a lot of virtual pizza party and make it fun while I was teaching the kids. We have breakfast together and things like that, and open discussion. How do you feel being so contained? What are some of the things you're doing? And, just bring it openly to the kids and encourage them. I also, for the ones that are struggling to write, I do have them do a lot of screenshot. And for the struggling readers, I have them draw the pictures out, screenshot it, and email it to me. And at least I can understand, that they're getting something out of what has been taught to them remotely. It can work if the parents work collaboratively with the teacher. One of the things I do also, I extend my time for the students that like to sleep late. I go on at 8 and I am there until 4:30 because I have to keep a record of the kids that are on. So I realize the students that, some teachers might complain not doing the work. For me, they're doing the work because they're on after 3:30 until 5. So then I can document. So these are things that we need to look out for and encourage parents to, it's hard, but to be a little more involved.
All right.
And thank you for having me, Dr. Lane.
You're welcome. Marlene?
Totally agree. The one word that I want to walk away with everybody, accountability. That word,
Yes.
accountability.
Yes.
Parents are going to be held accountable. Teachers are going to be held accountable. So that's my word. Just be prepared. Because we all will have to be accountable for what it is that we're doing.
All right. And I really appreciate both of you taking the time. And I just want to say that as a family, a church, a community, a city, a nation, we got to come together. We got to come together from all aspects and put our heads together to see how we're going to help our children, our teachers, our school workers, our nurses to make this thing work, to work it till we can get back together. And I think I do have hope. I also want to say that we are going to get back together. Can't tell you when, but we'll be back together and, we'll have a hug party. We'll probably just have to hug for a straight week. And then, just to get back into the swing of things. But don't give up hope and, stay focused, stay tuned. And of course, we're going to be praying that God's blessings will be upon all of you and we'll just keep your minds stable, keep your mind straight and keep your focus. So this has been another episode of Premier's Turning Point. We thank you all. Again, special thanks to Mrs. Ashmead and Ms. Valine Jarrett for all your time today. And we just want to give you a great hand. We thank you. And we say God blessing upon you. God bless everyone. And God bless you. Have a great rest of the day. Blessings.
Thank you, Dr. Lane.
Turning Point family, what an awesome time we just had. To all our first-time guests, we truly appreciate you for joining our live broadcast. We would like to hear from you, so please send us your comments, questions, or testimonies of how this program has impacted your life. Our email address is info@pflmi.org. Finally, if you feel led at any time to give to this ministry, please visit us at pflmi.org and click on the tab for donations. You can also give via Cash App at $PFLMIORG. We're looking forward to meeting with you live on next week's program. Have a blessed and prosperous weekend.